Andrakovic. I'm Frontend Developer at Inchoo. I've been working with Magento for the last 4.5 years. In this topic today I will talk about HTML5 APIs and how we can work with some of them. Maybe we can use them to improve our performance or maybe user experience. With the HTML5 we receive lots of new functionalities, lots of opportunities for us, and with the HTML5 APIs we really have a chance to user device, user session. We really have opportunity to do some things that a few years back only mobile application developers had those chances. So right now that world is open to us, not exactly. Currently it's still bumpy road, as my boss likes to say, because when we are working with HTML5 APIs, as I said, we are accessing user's session, user device, we are gathering information about his network conditions, we can even access his storage, so that raises some issues or concerns with security, with privacy. We can also, if you don't know what you are doing, you can basically destroy his experience, because you can have impact on his hardware or performance of his device. You can drain his battery. You can do lots of bad things. Right now the support for HTML5 APIs varies a lot, so there are some browsers that support some functionalities for over a year, some are still not implement them. So if you will start to work with them, you will have to be really careful about what you will use and when. For the beginning, let's just demystify that HTML5 APIs story. So what is basically an API? When I was talking with the older colleagues in the company, I just wanted to, because okay, we all know what API is, but I noticed that younger developers, they like to call any new functionality in, I don't know, JavaScript, they call it API. For them, API is a bit something different than for the older developers who were working with APIs, I don't know, 5-10 years ago. They know that API is why we are using APIs. So, in short, API is basically a set of some directions, and you need him to communicate with some far distant system application, whatever. By this example, we can say that this person in a restaurant or his desk is basically your website, your application, and you need to pull some data from some other application, main application, some other service or whatever. In this case, that other service or other application is basically a kitchen. And you will receive the menu from the waiter, who is basically an API, or he's carrying some directives to you. That's menu. What can you offer from the kitchen? So there are rules. You cannot offer whatever you want. You only can order what the kitchen is ready to deliver. Okay, if you have a gun or 2,000 euros, you'll probably get whatever you want, but you understand the story. The waiters will then deliver your order to the kitchen. Kitchen will deliver what you have requested. Okay, in HTML5, who is communicating with who? Why do we call that API? HTML5 API, some basically JavaScript directives, some functions, which are written inside HTML5. The story goes like this: you have W3C or WhatVG folks who wrote some specification. They say, okay, we wrote something that needs to do something. The next step is our vendors. So they need to convince vendors that they implement that functionalities in new releases, browser vendors. Then the situation is that Chrome comes and says, okay, this is cool, we like it, we will implement the next release. Edge comes, says, yeah, this, what? They don't understand. And so on and so on. That's why we have a situation that, you know the story. I mean, browsers were never in sync, they are not in sync today. and you are in problem of working with APIs because the support is not so great. Your best friend will become can I use? You all were probably using it before. You will use it even more because you need to see which of the APIs you wish to use work with which browsers, and you know what is your target browsers. Okay, back to the topic. This is one picture, I don't know, from Stadium, and we as front-end developers, if someone asks me, okay, tell me a story about that picture, is your website optimized for this? What do we know? 99% of the people in this picture probably use cell phone. Some of them use tablet, maybe a few laptops, press. Our site is responsive, so we don't care. We are prepared for all of the situations. But what else can you see from that picture? I don't know how it goes in your countries, but in Croatia, if you have a situation where there are lots of people at one place, it can be stadium, concert, whatever, your network will be bad, if you will even have it. Public Wi-Fi will not work in this situation because there is a lot of people that are trying to connect. Your carrier will probably drop down to edge, from 4G to edge. That's one problem. So they do not use the same carrier, they don't have the same signal strength. Another issue is their battery level. Some of them are having 8%, some of them are having 90%. We don't know, but are we prepared for those cases? Yeah, probably we do some small optimization in order to help them with that, but if we want to be honest, we do optimize for device, for machines, for resolutions, but we do not optimize for user. We do not optimize for his specific condition. And that may be a problem today because as the competition is rising, you are trying to find any small advantage over them, and that small advantage can really give you a lot of advance over the competition. So, what can we use from the APIs? For the beginning, let's start with web workers, as they are currently people are hyping about that. Web workers are nothing more than some interfaces written for HTML5. Basically chunks of JavaScript code that runs in the background without affecting the performance of the website. We all know that currently we are using, when we are working, we are using single-threaded architecture, which means that all the communication between client and the server is basically going on in single thread. That can cause that is causing a lot of issues in terms of performance over the last years for us. And right now we have an opportunity to create a separated thread which will run parallel with the main thread in which main application is performing, and which means that you can basically load some additional stuff and you will not affect the performance of the website. You can load the new JavaScript file, you can load whatever you want. Okay, we are using require.js. We can do the same with if you, for example, want to invoke some new script on some user action, you can do that with require. You can use lazy load. The web workers, they don't have the access to the DOM directly, although they are written in client side, they are created on the client side, they don't have access to the DOM. What you can do with them, you can basically write some messages, you can communicate with the main thread, where you will send some message to the application, and the application will send that new file to the user after some action was performed on the website. Like I said, require.js, lazy load, so I don't see benefits of working with web workers on that way. And also, if you have a separated threads, if you create lots of them, you will consume more resources from the user device, and you will then you are again in the problem, because in the previous slide I was talking about people who may have 8% of the battery, people who may have slow connection, and now I am creating 5 separated threads. I will probably drain their battery in a few minutes. So you really have to be careful with working with all of those APIs. But here is one example of usage you can try to use. You can try to use them in order to speed up the front end. This is not an image; it's a canvas object, and what you can see that load of the canvas object without using the web workers, it took 1.6 seconds to render that image. If you use workers, time is 0.3. I was using 2 here, but I tried with 1 as well. With 1 you get like 0.4, so it's not much of a difference. And the interesting thing is that when I was trying, I tried with 3 and 4, and the results was varied. Because with the 4 workers I had higher load time. So that's definitely something we should take a look. But it tells me that it is not so straightforward and that you should really be careful when working with them. The next thing is web storage API, also something that people talk a lot about in the last period. And it's basically a general term for several APIs that are working with storage. You have a session storage object, you have a local storage object. Difference is that session storage is, okay, sorry, I forgot to say one thing. So currently we are storing cache in user's cookie, right? With this you can store cache in browser itself. And how much is browser limit for the storage, you can use that. You can use 50 megabytes, you can use less, depends on the browser. You have object session storage, you have local storage, and the difference is that a session storage, storage will be deleted as soon as you close the browser, or for example in Chrome every tab is a session. So you can have 5 tabs with 5 different cache things, you close the tab, that cache is gone. Local storage is a bit different because it caches all of the 5 tabs, so you need to close the browser so that it clears himself. This is used for offline web applications. You can use it to serve offline website, but the problem is that it has a poor performance for large and complex data. Hello Magento. So that's first problem. The other may be an issue, maybe a security issue, and the storage is basically okay. It is inside the browser, but where are those files? On your hard drive. So that's why we have an issue with performance, because you are always, if you want to pull that cache, you need to communicate with the hard drive. It is slower than if you will pull that cache from memory. But it is good for smaller things, and there are a few use cases. I think Guardian is using it for critical CSS. So they cache critical CSS on your browser. Each time you visit Guardian, you get instant homepage. So you get feeling of speed. Problem is that Smashing Magazine, they were also using it for storing the fonts on the user browser because they had some issues with the fonts. I was reading the case study from Vitaly, but I can't remember exactly what was the problem. But they solved the problem with storing fonts with the local storage on the user browser. You have one problem. If you cannot rely on your site that it will work in offline because storage has a limit. So today websites are heavy, and probably if user stores your site in storage, he will browse more, and in, I don't know, 1 day, 2 days, that storage is gone because it will be overwritten with something else. Another that may be an issue, I don't know, but it works in incognito mode as well. So you will still have your, session recorded. If you, for example, leave your browser open, someone may come and, he can have access to that if he knows what he is doing. Network Information API, one of my favorites. So you can gather information about network that the device is using. Is it Wi-Fi? Is it 3G, 4G? You can even measure the speed. Not exactly accurate, but you can be close. How? There are a few tricks. I read about one that people were using. So they were basically having one image with known file size. They were then when the user was visiting the site, when the assets were delivering to them, they just recorded the load time. And then you can try to gather some information about that speed, he is using, and in terms of that, you can serve a different content. For example, if you detect that user is using internet from his carrier, 4G, 3G, you have a 4K videos on your site. If you detect that he is on network, you can provide him some information. You can put some pop-up which will say you are using internet from carrier, and watching this video may consume additional fees because 4K videos are high. If you detect that he is on Wi-Fi, or you can do opposite, you can serve higher quality videos if you detect that he is on Wi-Fi and the signal is pretty much high. What is good that with this API that you can observe the changes. So you can track whether he switched from Wi-Fi to 4G, 3G, whatever. You can then serve him different content for the given situation. This is a small chunk of JavaScript code which basically shows how to see what is the connection. And as you can see, it's not that I didn't have a space. That's it. That's all the code. And with the majority of APIs, they are not so hard to use. They basically you just need to create some variable where you call some worker, and then you need to invoke the functionality in your HTML. But it is not a science, and we can really start doing them, and the cost of development is not that high, because that is something you can set up in a few hours. But you must, I will repeat, you must be really careful. I mean, especially if you will go with combination of APIs, then the things can start to getting out of the control. Battery status API. This one is interesting, and let me say from the beginning that currently it's being rejected by most of the browsers because of the security issues. Chrome is still considering, I don't know why. But we will definitely have that in the future, maybe some other version of it, but this is definitely something we can use and we should use. It can measure battery status in seconds and percentage. You can gather those information and you can manipulate the content for the given state. For example, what was Uber doing 2 years ago? I don't know if they are still doing it in their application. They were doing the following. They did use the battery status API. They were watching your battery level. So, for example, it's 3 in the morning. I don't know, you are in the middle of Krakow and you are first time here. You need fast to come at some place. Your battery is at, I don't know, 3%. They detect that. They charge drive higher because they know you don't have a choice. If you do not make that order now, you will probably drain battery and you will not have another call. So they were doing that, and I don't know if they're still doing it because there are developers who discovered that and published that, and people are discussing it. And this is example of how you can manipulate that information in your benefit. This is like black hat. I don't know. This is not polite towards the user, but you can do it in the other way. You can do some positive things with it. It is also good with this API is that it observes changes in status. It can react if you put your device on charging. You can detect that. Again, you can respond. So it's not the same situation anymore. Now he will not have problems with battery. You can change. As far as Magento is concerned, if the user is on, I don't know, low battery, you can maybe strip down some Ajax calls. You have some CSS3 animation. You will prepare a separated CSS file without animation. You will serve that one. I mean, possibilities are endless. Why are they rejecting it? Not because of Uber. It has a few other issues. If you can measure the battery status in both seconds and percentage, you can basically fingerprint the device on network. You can track it. Problem is this. You're on your laptop. You open the, I don't know, your main browser is Chrome, so you open Chrome, you do your regular job, whatever, you're at a job. You want to do something privately, I don't know, so you open browser you don't use usually, Safari for example, you open incognito mode, you can even turn on VPN. When you connect, when you browse, you are fingerprinted. Someone can know that it's you, so you cannot protect yourself for that. It will not be 100% accurate, but as the more you stay, the more both sessions are active, there are higher chances you will be detected as the same person. Because of that, browsers are starting to reject that functionality, and they will probably implement it in the future, because lots of people all vendors are trying to figure out a way how to avoid that, so they will probably figure it out in the future. But right now it is not supported with the major browsers, so we are not able to use it. But you can imagine possibilities of that. Web speech API. Maybe not so interesting at first, but it is interesting. It allows websites to handle voice data. In short, you can provide voice commands to the website. The website will respond. You can maybe use it to Magento. You can help users to skip the boring part. They can fill up the forms with voice. But it also works in another way. You can type on the website, and the website can respond with voice. So it goes both ways. That's something that Google uses for years. I mean, it's not something so new, but we are having it's opening towards us. It has speech recognition, synthesis. You can do a lot with it. Page visibility API. This is also, at first, it may seem that it's not so important, but imagine the possibilities. You can detect if user is having your site on focus or he is opening another tab. There is one development blog that uses it. When you are on his site, you have, I don't know, 10 tabs opened. You're on his site, everything is okay. You switch the tab, you see the notification in tab, we miss you, come back. That's sweet example. That's UX. Those are those small things. With visibility state, you can detect 4 states. Hidden means that your website is, okay, this is the situation. Mobile, I'm on site, on Chrome. I wanna text someone via Viber. I'm opening Viber. My website is hidden. That's the state hidden. Pre-render. Site is loaded, but it's not visible. It's hidden. It's the same, but site is loaded. And it's not the same case. You can use different things on both cases. Visible, site is fully or half visible. Unloaded means that site was unloaded from the memory. So, what are the usages? You have carousel with 3 images. All of them are important to the client. He wants users to see all 3 of them. You'll probably automate carousel, etc. Same situation. He saw first one. He needs to text someone. He switched to Viber. What can you do? Stop carousel. When he is back, you also can. This API also observes and reacts on change. When he is back in the focus, you can continue. You can show second slide. Small thing, but important. This is example. Same with video. You can basically pause video on users when your site is hidden. Again, lots of usages, lots of advantages. Or you can maybe, for example, when page is not visible, load additional something. If you don't want user to experience slowdowns when you are loading, for example, some higher image, video, whatever, do that when it is hidden. Device light. Yes, with the sensors we can detect environment, we can detect intensity of the light. This is also something that can be done pretty much easy, and it can also be good UX addition to the site. You can basically observe, I think that by default you have 4 states, 100%, 50%, 25%, 0. You can basically change some root CSS class, you can change the whole layout. If, I don't know, a user suddenly enters into some lighter room, or you can do the opposite if he enters in some darker room. So you can manipulate CSS to provide best experience to him. Also, it watches the change, it reacts. Also, small UX, but can make a difference. If only 1 from 100 takes this as a cool and buy, you did your job. And all of those things are basically can be used to build trust towards the brand, the website, and you will definitely have a higher conversion if you implement some of those functionalities. But again, you can create a lot of mess. So you really need to be careful. You really need to try the small things. You know, you just approach to the client to say, okay, we have some idea we would like to implement. Currently, it is supported in this browser. If you want, we can try. You will see that users will probably have a good feedback on that functionality. I know that I missed some of them. There are lots of more interesting API, push API for delivering push notifications inside of the browser that's been used already. And what will future bring? So we will definitely have, I mean, currently they are working on new APIs and APIs in HTML5 that really have future. I think that there are no stepping back right now. And of course, there will be lots of security issues. There will be lots of problems. It will be bumpy road, but it doesn't have to scare you. If you can do something today, you should try. I mean, no one is forcing you. If you think that maybe it is not worth of investment, maybe if you are targeting Chrome for some specific case, I don't know, user has a low battery. If you think that maybe, I don't know, if you think that it's not such a beneficial, just remember this. It was the same story with responsive. When we started with responsive, it was mobile device, who has them, half of them lots of people don't use it, we just don't see the benefit, why wouldn't they just slide a bit left, right, I don't want to invest additional money. Today we don't even talk about it. When someone needs site, we know that we are working it for, I don't know, 100 resolutions, 100 devices. Tomorrow we will have LOT, we will have internet on screen like this one, on a fridge, and it's not questionable. We will do it. So I think that it will be the same with HTML5 APIs. Are there any questions? Thank you very much.